So without further ado, I'd like to now hand over to Nick from 8x8 to cover off the next part of the webinar. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for the warm introduction, and great to be working with Britannic Technologies. My welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm going to take you through some information, background on 8x8, where we came from. Most of you may not have necessarily heard about us, and then, as Jonathan rightly said, do the dangerous thing of trying to do a live demonstration. So I'll go into my deck now and take you through where we're at. So for us as 8x8, it's been a very exciting few weeks and months. We've been named for the 9th consecutive year in a row now as a leader in the worldwide Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is widely used, as I'm sure you're aware. And that's for both UCaaS, so that's Unified Communications as a Service, but also now moving into that challenger region for the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Contact Center as a Service. So again, as Jonathan's already touched on, that sort of single platform idea and the ability to offer both a Unified Communications platform and a Contact Center platform within one. So, you know, both of those, I'd say, are pretty impressive achievements just in isolation, but the real differentiator for ourselves and our partners is the benefit that that can bring to you as customers and potential customers. If you look at that all together and then add in our ability to add things like CPaaS and other terms, so communications platform as a service, again, typically something you would go elsewhere for, again, brings it all under one banner, under one roof. So very much linking into Jonathan's comments around APIs and open platform capability. So we think this gives 8x8 a real, you know, end-to-end enterprise communications platform. It encompasses both telephony, Unified Communications. We've got the likes of Microsoft Teams integration built into the solution, the service. Contact Center with an open API capability, so we can customize that end user experience. And that's all underpinned by a single set of intelligence and analytics, and it's all owned by us. So everything we do and everything we sell, 8x8 owns it. It's our platform. So because it's our platform, it allows our customers to, if you like, leverage your existing investment that you may have already made in other software as a service products, CRM databases, for example. We can communicate across the country. We can communicate across the globe, any device, anywhere. Theme of the presentation, really, and give you that option to personalize the experience. So how you deliver it to your end customers is your choice. It's your channel. Any channel will work. And all that with a single vendor. So that's where 8x8 is very strong, being a single platform and then partnering with Britannic Technologies. That's why we believe it's different, if you like. That's what makes us very much transformational. In terms of where that name comes from, it really isn't that exciting. I think everyone tries to work it out as 8 times 8, 64. It's actually down to the building blocks. So these are the building blocks that made up the video compression back in the early days, dating back to the late 80s when it was embedded in video conferencing or video phones, to be more accurate. And it was the data chips and the data sets that came out of that. They used 8x8 pixels. So that's where the name came from. It's nothing much more exciting than that, but just to give you a bit of background on where the name actually comes from. In terms of us as a leader, if you like, the story so far, so we've been at this, as you can see, for sort of 30 plus years. We are a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange, and for the last 7 years or so, our products and strategies have been considered by Gartner, as now we're in the 9th year in the Magic Quadrant evaluation. For us, though, the last 5 years have been very instrumental, and it's compounded our annual growth rate. So our investments in research and development are up over 40% now, and that doubles our revenue growth rate, which is around about 20% year on year. So that really, for me, indicates our commitment to ensuring that we've got a leading product for today and tomorrow. So your investment now is safe as you move forward. With the largest deployments around the globe, with the likes of Regis running at 50,000 plus users, it's extremely scalable. So we've got that proven process for ensuring the success. That's certainly our story, and we're going to stick to it. In terms of how this looks in the market for how the world has changed, if you like. So we've seen business communications as the next major segment that will migrate to the cloud. Obviously, we're seeing that that's all 8x8 does. We're a public internet provider. So we've seen the likes of front office applications. We're a Salesforce house. I think pretty much everybody these days seems to be Salesforce. Years ago, not that many years ago necessarily, it would have been the likes of Oracle. HR applications, Workday is extremely common now. That would have been on the likes of SAP previously. And many of you, I'm sure, will have made that shift or part shift from an infrastructure that's entirely yours and you own everything and you have the server stack, to maybe having a combination of that and a combination of using the likes of Amazon Web Services and other providers. And that's where we see the next major shift. Certainly for ourselves, we're looking at that from a traditional on-premise PBX, which is largely being sort of run by the likes of Avaya and Cisco and other key vendors. That shift is absolutely coming over to that disruptor, and that's where 8x8 sits. But we're disrupting the marketplace. People are not necessarily seeing the benefit of having an on-prem PBX, and again, back with what's happened in the last year or so, that's really driven some of those decisions further forward. So some of the awards and recognition, which is very important to us, and it certainly helps us grow in the marketplace and get the recognition. You can see some of the key ones on here. I mentioned Gartner already, Frost & Sullivan and Forrester. And this has sort of been recognised where 8x8 has that global footprint. And as a result of that leadership in the unified communications as a service, and it's now turning into quite a sweet spot for contact centre as a service, we're addressing the needs for all business sectors, whether that's SMB, small mid-sized businesses, moving into large enterprise customers, strong growth in public sector, whether that's local councils now, some NHS quite recently, and the likes of housing associations. So again, huge growth markets for us, and that's just particularly in the UK. So last year or so, we've made some great progress in that, strengthening the commitment to the sort of 4 key pillars that we've got around the customer service, the partnerships, workforce management, engagement, and looking at the things like virtual customer assistant, which we use on our own page. Again, something Britannic are very strong on with AI, artificial intelligence, and using bots to pick up information. Again, fully linked into the 8x8 platform. But what these guys on the screen there, Frost & Sullivan, Gartner, and so on, see is the strength that 8x8 has, and largely that's around our geographic strategy. So because we're international and our expansion has shown that, 16 data centers across the globe, we can provide a UCaaS solution with solid foundations to meet the needs of pretty much any organization, be that UC or be that contact center or be it a multi-play where you need both of those solutions. So particularly where that requirement needs them both, it's really strong. That multi-play vendor has played nicely into our path. Pricing, again, sort of briefly being touched on, but we've got a very defined price range, competitive in the marketplace, and that tends to center around bundles where you take a service and bundle into that is the number of calls that you can make, UK, Europe, the world. You pick and choose how that works, and they can be tailored around with some unique offerings that we can provide through Britannic. Customer experience, also very key to us, and we've had some real positive reviews from the likes of Gartner with Gartner Peer Insights. So that's a score that we're improving on year after year. So how our end users actually perceive us. Largely that was around North America. Really proud to say that that now is combined into one, includes Europe, which shows the huge growth that we've had in Europe. In fact, it is one of our biggest growth areas for sure. So the feedback we get from end users is strengthening all the time. And in terms of looking at some of the kind of customers, it's kind of obligatory that we sort of put up some slides that say these are some of our existing partners and customers across the globe. Some big ones on here. I mentioned Regis down in the services category at the bottom there. Managed offices, 50,000 unified communications users, 1,100 contact center users on the platform at the moment. GameStop in the US, 8,000 unified communications users. Mattress Firm, a little bit below that one, 8,800 plus users and growing. Not shown on there quite recently, we brought on board Brent County Council. They're around about 11,500 seats and 450 contact center seats. So, again, it's showing that move that we're making into the public sector side as well. So the aim of today was to also look at, following on from Jonathan's great points, is around how do you operate from anywhere. So, obviously the world has changed. It's certainly been something we've seen over the last year. It's really accelerated the growth for our business. And this idea of how do you operate from anywhere. So as we talk to digital leaders and leveraging cloud communications to deliver a differentiating employee and customer experience. And the question, I guess, to yourselves is, are you ready? Are you ready to operate from anywhere? So what Britannic and 8x8 are doing is looking to be your guide, if you like, into the unified communications and contact center arena. If you feel your organization is under pressure to find ways of working, the good news is you're not alone in that. And if you don't feel like your current infrastructure isn't up to the job, 54% of human resource leaders say that poor technology and/or poor infrastructure is by far and away the biggest barrier that they see to effective remote or distributed workforces. That's coming out from Gartner. And how do we help you to hone that? How do we help you hone a successful remote working strategy? Make that digital changes that enable it. It doesn't need to be difficult, and more importantly, it doesn't need to be time consuming or necessarily costly. If anything, it should reduce your existing costs. How can we help you connect, communicate, and the word everyone's using, of course, is collaborate around that. And of course, we're going to say it's a unified communications platform. That's going to allow the people to connect, your employees, yourselves, seamlessly, wherever they are in the world, and hopefully better communication is going to lead to greater collaboration, how they work tighter together, even if they're not necessarily in the same place all of the time, as we've said, whatever the new norm might bring with it. But what we need to consider is before making any of those changes, it's looking at the key questions and discussions around that, and it's how do we change the conversation? How do you assess the current landscape that you're in? Choosing a platform approach is a way forward, and then maybe look at justifying the benefits around that. So today we're going to walk you through becoming one of those digital leaders. First, we discussed the executive conversations that we see going on, and these are the conversations we're having with customers every day. How do people work better from home? How do we operate a distributed workforce? How do we operate from anywhere? That's what the customers are asking us. Then if we look at the position where most organizations stand today, and we'll be showing you the majority of the 2021 budgets, where are they going to go next year? It's not that far away, less than a month away now. And no surprise, it's on cloud platforms. I'm bound to say that, aren't I? But that really is where we see the majority of 2021 budgets going. And then at the end, we'll take you through a short presentation. I'll share my screen and show you the work application. So we split the 8x8 product down into 8 licenses. Roughly half of those are on a UC platform. Sorry, it's all the same platform. UC users on the other side would be contact center. So if we look at how that sort of sits now, and as we've seen and experienced over the past months, I think as Jonathan rightly said, some of us have turned our bedrooms and basements into impromptu offices, and work from home is now certainly not an end state. We think it's a work in progress. It's not going to carry on this way forever. It's looking at how do we change that? How do we make that evolution, if you like? That being said, things are evolving, and we think they're moving very quickly. And to sort of enforce the point that was made earlier on, this time last year, towards the end of 2019, only 3% of full-time employees actually worked remotely, which is quite a, astounding figure. Then, of course, the pandemic hit, and now we're in a position where 81% of us are all forced into working a new way. We all want to work from home. We can't necessarily get into the offices. And I would imagine if your organization wasn't using cloud-based communications or collaboration tools of some sort before the pandemic hit, it's guaranteed that you and most people had the mad dash. Everyone went out there to try and find out, what's in the marketplace, what do we need? And I mean, I've seen it from personal experience that sometimes that mad dash isn't always the best thing in the long run. It wasn't necessarily the best decision to have made. I think many organizations today are dealing with that, if you like, fragmented experience. We're seeing IT leaders are now in talks with the CEOs, CFOs, and even human resources leads about how do we move past that sticky plaster band-aid tools and what's the long-term technology, what's going to move us on to work fully remotely or even have that hybrid. How do we have a solution that allows us to work in the office when we need to, remotely, be that home, be that a partner's location, wherever you are, the feeling and the user experience should be the same. So I think, again, as touched on already, the early pandemic, there was that scrabble, if you like, to get things in place. And we're now seeing less tolerance from customers who are putting up with poor communications when they're talking to the suppliers, maybe talking to some of yourselves who've gone out, done something, and it's maybe not completely joined up. So getting it wrong isn't an option. I think back in March, April time, it was accepted. Now that's absolutely not the case. And looking at some of the stats here in 2021 and beyond, and looking at budgets, they're focused on two top priorities. And this is PricewaterhouseCoopers brought this together. And those two priorities are cloud and platforms. So looking at cloud adoption, half of the organizations are saying that they are expecting to move 75% of all of their applications to cloud, sort of back to where we looked at the disruptors in the marketplace. Lots of things are already there, be that sort of HR platforms, CRM, Salesforce, and so on. But now it's looking to move other applications, such as communications, into the cloud. And we'll see that during 2021, and more than that, I would say 25% of those organizations are looking to move everything to the cloud. The sort of the light bulb moment's happened. They see this as absolutely the future. Even for us, and we've seen this one move slightly slower, would be in the contact center area, which has always sort of been a bastion of, operates on premise. You must have people sat at desks with headsets on and plastic phones sat on desks next to them. And we are definitely seeing that, a huge move to the cloud. Again, because of COVID-19, it's forced people's minds. It's made them think, how can I work better? We've tried to put people back in the office and it just didn't work. We've tried to take our PBX functionality and operate from anywhere, operate from home. It's not worked. So the prediction by Gartner is by the end of the year after next, 2022, contact center as a service will be the preferred adoption model for around about half of all contact centers. And we've seen that really accelerate. We've had people come to us with PBXs. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, except they're collecting dust sat in an office. Nobody's actually connecting to them because they don't operate from a remote worker's point of view. So it's looking at how that works and how we can help you drive that forward. And I think this helps, and the conversations that you have around it, around how quickly you can change and how do we make work from home work? How do you make that work? How do you make operate from anywhere work for yourselves? And not only that, but how do we set ourselves up? How do you be more agile, more successful? And in this, wherever this next norm is going to be, how does that work for you as businesses? How can you get that balance right? And I think this quote on here from Deloitte's is really important. I think it captures why we need to change the conversations that we're currently having. Early in 2020, what we did and what we needed to do was to respond to COVID-19, and the need to work from home was accelerated. Now, I think we're in that recovery mode. So we've gone through where we've assessed where we're at, what we bought, what's right, what's wrong, and now we need to go for the long term and set the organizations up to thrive. You've got to put something in place now that's going to help you move forward as businesses. So I think as part of that, it's assessing your current landscape, what's there now. So, where most businesses are today, what you've learned, and where you need to be in the future. And the next figure, I think, is quite shocking when we look at that. And this comes from Forrester. I think it is literally quite mind-blowing that when a survey was carried out that looked at the spend organizations made on additional tech and related security, particularly during this is 3 months of the pandemic, $15 billion every single week was spent on this. So for many organizations, including many of you yourselves, I'm sure this included rushing out and buying Zoom, and everyone was Zooming this and Zoom quizzes, and it was everybody. It's just become the term for video meetings now. People use things like Slack for messaging, some type of stopgap contact center tool, that kind of sort of maybe-ish sort of worked, but they were quick fixes. And I think unfortunately now some of those stopgap measures have resulted in the communications that you're providing and a collaboration, those silos that Jonathan touched on earlier. So that individually there's nothing wrong with these applications and products, but they don't necessarily talk to each other. And of course you're paying for them individually. So when it comes to both the customer and employee experience, it's not great, because it's back to the idea of training. You've got to train everybody on different applications all the time. And I bet if you assessed where you are today with your current tech, you'd probably find something similar. You're bound to have taken something on board in the last year that's not necessarily a great fit. And the good news is you're not alone. Right at this moment, there's millions of businesses in exactly the same place, but it's not really where you want to be. You don't want to be alone in the future. You need to move forward with what the next move in terms of a platform approach would be. And I think that's where we come in, really. So it's considering why have a platform approach that potentially offers you all the communications and collaborations need under one umbrella. So this is for us that there are three kind of key things, if you like. So top three business priorities that we're seeing is people want to improve their operational efficiencies. Why wouldn't they? Customer engagement and retention. Absolutely. How do you speak to them? How can we communicate with them, both external and internal customers? And how do you enable your workforces? So whether that's somebody based in the office, somebody remote, how do they have that same experience? And what a surprise when you think about these priorities, the two fastest growing tech investments are platforms and cloud. And that's absolutely where 8x8 sits. And related to this, and back to the idea of the sort of recover and thrive phase, if what if you could, is what IT leaders are thinking about, and this lovely term of digital transformation and 2020 budgets. And top of the mind, as we can see on there, is absolutely how do we increase productivity by improving and having more unified employee and customer experience. How can we capture data? Because everyone's remote, how do we capture the data in a unified way that leverages insights? How can we see how we improve the business, how we're communicating with our customers, how they're calling us when they call us, what are they liking and not liking? Is it chat that they like? Is it web? Is it contact center? What works best for them? How can we look at the data around that? Security is got to be absolutely top of everybody's mind. And it's never been more important than when it comes to home working, and that's going to be permanent for some people, or certainly a good percentage of the working week. And not everybody will have the infrastructure in place to provide a secure experience. So again, whatever platforms and applications you're looking for, they need to have that inherently built into them. And I guess really the bottom line for everyone is you want to increase your revenues and reduce your operating costs. And that's very much where we see a platform solution comes into play. Quite a busy slide on there. This sort of brings home the idea of the open cloud communications, and certainly for us, this is why platforms, especially for comms and collaboration, we're seeing that as the fastest tech investment. If you have one solution, such as 8x8, that will meet all of your call, chat, even connect into a contact center, that's something that addresses those core needs, if you like. So it gives you an improved, more unified customer experience, a single source of data that's there. It's a secure platform, end to end. So whether somebody is a remote worker, an office worker, the security is untouched. And again, hopefully it would give you that increased revenue and cost saving, because it's vendor consolidation. You've not got a video meetings platform, a chat platform. You're bringing everything together under one, and hopefully gives a better overall experience. So what we have is something called the X Series, and it is that one platform, and it gives you that instant communication across all of your employees, customers, sales service, whether you want to do that as a voice call, video, team messaging, team meetings, and again, contact center is integrated. It's one platform. So if you're a contact center user, you can talk to non-contact center users. It's not two separate platforms across it. And for us, one thing that sets us apart from the competition is that reliability and quality, which of course you're going to need, particularly with the distributed workforce. And everyone's going to make that claim. we're not going to be any different in that one. But for us, because we own the technology stack, we can actually deliver on that. And part of our patented history, we're 240 plus patents on our products. It ensures that consistent user experience over perhaps inconsistent networks sometimes. We can guarantee your contracts in there. So again, through Britannic, we will offer a service level agreement with you that says we will not drop below this level of service with you. And again, that's something that we've seen is recognized in the industry and excuse me, and pushes us up into that leader in the UC environment. And from what I see, again, I'll jump into the actual demonstration in a second, is the ability to, with a tap of a finger, I can go from interactions from a voice to a chat, or chat to voice, from voice to video conference, all whilst maintaining the same content and context for a true omni-channel experience. I'm not jumping between applications, so let's hang up on this and go into a meeting room. It's the same platform. You don't need to do that. If you want, you just start out with a call phone service, and then when you want the additional capabilities or need them, you add them on as and when you actually need to see those. So now if I actually take a look at the application itself, I'll share my screen on here, and then you can actually take a look at what this actually looks like. So hopefully that's appearing for you now. So let me go into the application that you can see on screen here. So this is what's called 8x8 work. So this is more on the UC side, so the unified communications side of the product. The interface that would be used for contact center looks a little bit different. This is mine. This is live, which is always risky on that one. So if I go around sort of like clock face, I'll start top left hand corner. My little icon there. Hopefully you can see that. Let me make that full screen. Might help a little bit. So without diving into too much detail around it, that's obviously my details against there. I'm in a do not disturb situation at the moment because I'm in a meeting. Obviously I can make myself available, busy, away. Away would click in if, let's say, you had got yourself in a position where you'd stepped away from your desk, maybe taking another call on a mobile device, for example. After maybe 20 minutes, it'll set you into an away state, so it detects there's no activity on the desktop, and it'll put you into that state if you wanted to. You don't obviously have to do that against that. Lots of different things like caller ID. I only have one number, that's my DDI on there, but you could present different numbers when you call out. So if you wanted to call out using a particular campaign number, you could do that. If you want to hide your CLI, again, you can do that by having multiple numbers in there if you wish. I just have the one on mine. Needless to say, lots of things around account settings, help in terms of how you can actually jump into things like keyboard shortcuts, frequently asked questions, how you use the user interface. There's online training videos that will link you to an 8x8 training portal, so it'll take you through the relevant information on there. So that's how it does. Obviously, mine, every time you come out of a state, if you're in DND, it always warns you, so you're not trying to go into meetings and still sat on that. First thing on here then would be from a telephony side. So these are all of the calls that I've either made or missed today. So from Will tried to call me just before the presentation, so I didn't take that call, so it flags in red. I can call Will straight back. I could go in and I could send Will a message if I wanted to against that. Again, missed calls, pretty much the same sort of thing. Obviously, missed a call from Will, from Scott, and so on. I can go in, click them, or message them directly through the system. And if I've got any voicemails, I've got one showing on there. It's highlighted in the black figures there from Mandy. So again, I need to go in and listen to that one. The others below it, I've listened to. I've just left them in my voicemail box for now. Again, I can leave them there for playing back at a later date, or of course I can delete those off there if I wanted to. Contacts, pretty straightforward. These are my contacts. So this is synchronized with we use Google. So this is my Google contacts. So that's brought all my Google contacts into here. We've got the company contacts against them. So this is everybody broken down. In my case, I've just filtered this by location. You've got some different options here. So you can go in, just give me everything, or by department. So if you're not too sure who works in support, I can go in, search on support, and they'll bring me back somebody or the group of people that work in the support area. So I can go in by department, and I can go to the accounting. I can see anybody that's available in these
areas. So you see the names against them. Down in accounting, green dot next to Agatha would mean that she's available at the moment. Both, obviously I can call her, if she's on a call, it'll turn red, get a little red phone symbol against it. So I could message her if I wanted to do that against there. So that's full sort of telephony side. In the center of the screen there, you need to say you've got a dial pad. I don't use that a great deal, I have to say. So most of the calls I make will be from my contacts list. If I was calling Jonathan, he's in my contacts, I'll just call him from there. I just highlight the number and dial it. If it's on an email, I'll highlight the number and dial it. If it's a web page, same. So not something I would particularly use unless it's a number I didn't know previously, and somebody's given it me on a piece of paper, then yes, I might use the dial pad. Typically, to get it right and speed, I'm always going to highlight and dial it that way. Next section on here would be in the contacts side, so sorry, in the messaging side. So again, this is live on here, so I've got various ones. I've clicked on Will, so it's added him in there. I can have up to 9 of these boxes on the right hand side active at any one time. So these are chat messages that people have put in. You can see that they're live against there. Some of these are room based, so the concept of rooms is that's one to many. Rooms can be public or private, so I can have a private room and only the people I invite into that room would get to see that information that's published in those particular rooms. A public room, anybody can gain access to and get the information against it if they wanted to. So you can see down here, for example, I've got X series, which is the product. If I click on that, that's a public room, and this is all the information that people have put in about the X series. One of my options on there is I can go in and search. So I could go in and search on, I don't know, the X4 license. It'll bring me back every time X4 was mentioned in any of these conversations. So what this does is it saves me having to go and ask the question that 25 people have asked beforehand. Has somebody else already asked it? What was the response from it? I can go in and I can see it. Some people have even put links in there. If I wanted to against any of these, I could actually go in and copy that text if it was relevant to pass on to a partner. Clearly some of this is internal, so that wouldn't necessarily be the case against it. We've got some little avatars against some of the rooms against here. That's something we introduced quite recently. I'm pretty sure we've got one against them here for our friends at Britannic. There we go. So I've got a little avatar against Britannic, which is there. So it just makes it easier for me to go into and actually pick Britannic out as a room that I've created, and the relevant people that we need to discuss anything relevant to Britannic would sit inside of there. So these are live and constant chat messages. We probably use this more than email. As you can see, I'm part of the UK CAM team here, and the icon there means I can attach files, videos, can go into here as well. So if you were using this on a mobile device, this is my desktop. It looks and feels exactly the same on the mobile device. And you're out at site and you need to take a picture of something, you can do that, attach it, put it in the relevant project team room if that's what you needed to do, and send it in, and people would pick it up against there. So it's not just about chat in there, it's about adding documentation, and obviously I can go back over any time period to pull those out. Any of the numbers, by the way, you see like the 53 and 951, that means messages that I've not read. So I just set mine up so it alerts. Clearly I can go in and close those down if I wanted to. It shows me what's available in those rooms that I've not yet gone in and actually looked at. So these are really good. So if you've got conversations going on with individuals, if I was talking to Lisa, I can have a room set up with Lisa, and then I can also have one set up with Ron Booth, and I can watch them at the same time, so I can see information coming in across them both rather than having to close one and open one all the time. That's why we have up to 9 active windows at any one time. So this is really useful for us to be able to go into. If you don't like all of that in there, of course you can just close all this right down and just have one showing at any one time. You'll notice the same icons in the top right here as well, so I can phone Ron. Ron's actually free, I can see that because the little green icon says he's working from home. I could go in and just go straight into a video call. If I click that, Ron would get a message to say, Nick's trying to bring you into a video meeting, would you want to do that? He answers yes, and then we join each other in that room if that's what we're looking to do. And then across the bottom here is the video one. So this is where we have video meetings. And if I can go in onto this one, we can look at how the cameras work against it. So we can see where the information comes in. So clearly in the middle of the screen here, typically that would have a camera on it. So we can say on that particular one there, you've got me, very large on the screen. So this will host up to 100 people at any one time. So 100 people in any video meetings solution. If you go above that, we do something similar to what we're doing now with Britannic. So we would take this into a YouTube streaming environment. So that's how you would use that against that. So if I was to, let's say, start a meeting, clearly I'm going to be the only one that's actually in there. Then this gives me some different options across the bin. I won't take my mic off. It warns me that I'm muted. Famous words everyone's using in pandemic is you're on mute. It tells me, it senses the microphone and pops up a warning for me. Gone through some of these instructions on the left. They're exactly the same against here in terms of how you actually use it. Bottom left-hand corner, I've got the ability to go in and send messages. So if I send one there, that would literally send it to all the people that were in the meeting room. If I had 10 people in there, I could pick individuals out and have sidebar conversations with them if I wanted to. So only they see the message, not everybody else against it. Share screen, pretty much what we're doing now. So I can go in and share my screen, or I can share an application. So I don't have to share the whole screen. I can just share an application. So if you're concerned about people seeing what else you might have open at any one time, I can go in and just say, right, just share the particular application. Raise my hand. If I click on that, you'll see in the top corner up here, a little blue icon has appeared. So I've raised my hand, and it's telling the person that's running the meeting that I'm looking to ask a question against it. They can drop it for me, or I can drop that against it if I wanted to. The two C's on there is a ticker tape that will appear. So it's essentially subtitles. So if you were in a meeting, but maybe not in a position where you wanted the audio on all the time, you click that and it'll put the subtitles across the bottom. It'll translate what somebody is saying. So it'll put that for you across the bottom. Clearly, if you record the meetings as well, it'll put that information there for you. So you've got that to go back and refer to if you wanted to. So we can put the subtitles across the bottom. Bottom there, microphone. Obviously, mine's switched off. I'm using a separate mic on this one. I can drop the meeting call, and I can swap in and out of which camera I might be using against that. So I can switch my camera off like that. It'll just put my avatar. So I'll leave it like that for the moment. Across the bottom here, the little person icon. This gives me the ability to invite people into the meeting. So whether that's internal or external, I can send them the link. So if it was, let's say, Jonathan I wanted to add in, that's my meeting link. So I just copy that, email it to Jonathan. He clicks on the link and he comes straight into the meeting. Now, every meeting is secure on this, because the way I set mine up is every meeting has a different code associated with it. So there's no danger of sending that out and somebody accidentally clicks on it 2 weeks later and then joins me and Jonathan in a meeting. That won't happen because of the way I've set mine up. If somebody just needs to dial in, then there's the dial in options for them across the bottom of the screen there as well. In addition to that, we've got the 3 dots. 3 dots always means that there's more on here. So manage call quality. I'm on high def. At the moment, it would typically default to that. If somebody was struggling with audio, or we'd normally say, well, okay, if it's a bit choppy, take the video off. And if it's still not quite sort of optimal, then you can drop this right down. So it goes audio only. It would straight away drop the video off. So it starts at high def, but you can change that accordingly across there. Live stream is how we take that into something like YouTube. So if you wanted to do a session like we've got today, then you could do a live stream there. I can record all of these calls, all these meetings. So start record, and it'll save that for me as we're doing this one today. You can play that back at your own time. I've got an option there to share YouTube video. So if I've got a YouTube video, maybe 8x8 training video, or how our application works, I can bring that straight in. Quite a good one is being able to mute everybody when somebody doesn't realise that they've got their microphone on. I can mute everybody that's in the meeting. I can also set my meetings up where it starts with everybody muted as well. So you've got that flexibility there. Speaker stats, well, as I'm the only one in here, it would only show me. But again, if you wanted to see who's been contributing to a meeting, you can click on the speaker stats to see who's adding to it and so on. Nice little things there, I would say, is like shortcuts. So we've got some quick ones on there. I quite like the space bar. across here. So it says transmit. Essentially, if you're on mute, whilst you hold the space bar down, you can talk. As soon as you release the space bar, you're back on mute. So it gives you that option if you're just trying to add bits in, but you don't want to keep coming on and off the mic, clicking. You just hit the space bar and you're on and off. Nice simple things like the thumbnails for everybody that's on there. If you want to show them or hide them, click F. If you want to start and stop your camera, V for video, click the V button and it'll take your video off the screen. So nice and intuitive the way that works. Top right hand side here, you can see I've got a little avatar. Obviously, if there are more people in the meeting, there would be more of those below there. Got a green icon, which is good because it's showing that my connection is a good quality one. The next one below that, it would drop down to amber, then red, and then grey. Grey would mean that the person's probably lost connection. But you can instantly see in a meeting if somebody's in difficulties, then we'd suggest, look, switch your video off, drop the connection down to voice only. That might help with the connection on it, because again, these things are only going to be as good as the connection that somebody has got against there. So that's a kind of quick show through on how the actual screen works. So this is what we would use from a telephony side. From a meetings side, you can take the meeting side as a separate one. So if you want to have meeting rooms, literally with sort of iPads and large screens in them, you can do that as well. But meetings is built into the 8x8 solution as standard. The look and feel of this is my desktop. So how I run it, I don't use a physical handset. You can use physical handsets if you want. We've actually just gone past the 65% mark of people that don't buy handsets net new. So we're absolutely seeing that shift with people not wanting to make that investment necessarily. So 35% or so do, 65% are quite happy to have it as a desktop, speakerphone, headset. And again, I think that the recent change in the world has certainly driven that forward. Also comes as a mobile app. I say comes as, you get that as part of the X series. So it's not an either or, you get both. So we're seeing lots of organizations will take this and they find it extremely useful to say, well, we don't need a physical handset here. We can use a mobile device. We can use a tablet, an iPad. We've recently just introduced this with Fire tablets as well. So you can make far more use out of one of those devices, and a lot of the time they're probably cheaper than a physical handset as well. But look, not to knock handsets. If you want them, it works with handsets as well. But this is using the desktop interface for it. Jonathan, are you happy to throw this open to questions now?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks very much, Nick. Hopefully it's given everyone a good flavour for the core platform. Obviously, there is contact centre technology that's delivered with different license types. So, more than happy to arrange a specific demonstration for another day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think again, if we've got any questions that people want to cover off, I think one of the important points are just our notes is around the cost-effective delivery of these types of solutions. So certainly what we've seen is, you've got the ability to start small and undertake a proof of value, use the technology, and it's a simple cost per user per month with inclusive call minutes. So when we compare it to some of the other traditional models where you're needing to buy infrastructure to get going purely as a software as a service, it becomes a really affordable way to get started with new technology, and then easy to go and scale it from there. Is there anything you would add to that point?
No, I agree, Jonathan, and you and I have known each other for quite some time, and I think it's quite a surprise when you start talking to people who are used to perhaps the more familiar PBX arena, where we start saying, how do we put this configuration together? And you need 5 of them, 3 of those, and 2 of them. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Because what we've done is the infrastructure is already there. So you as a partner and the customer's not having to make that investment. We've done all of that. MS Teams, we've seen a huge uptake on MS Teams. We introduced that in August. And I think I could see that coming through on one of the questions about how does it work with MS Teams. So for us, we've gone for what's called a direct routing model, but essentially what that really means is everything I've just shown you on the screen there sort of sits in the background. You wouldn't really use the 8x8 interface you use MS Teams. Because if someone's made that decision to go with MS Teams, that's great. We're not there to compete against it. We're there to work with it. So we'd say use Teams, but use 8x8 in the background as a reliable voice application behind it. So we've seen that opens up so many conversations where people have said, yeah, look, we like Teams. We're not entirely sure about the Microsoft telephony side of it. So absolutely, we've seen that being a huge shift for us. Now, as I touched on earlier, it's surprising now how we're making that move more and more into the sort of the multiplay. It's people that see us as not just UC, it's UC and contact center, and that's really helping us sort of grow in the marketplace. So yeah, that big pushes for us.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about Teams, we recognise the growth of Microsoft Teams predominantly as a video solution people have been using due to COVID, right? But there is that, Teams is great from a point-to-point or a internet-based communication, but then the challenge is when you want to make and receive calls into into the public network, and actually that's part of the offering with 8x8 is to simplify the delivery of ultimately PSTN calling and deliver a more cost-effective way. That's certainly been the experience that we've got looking at the various pricing models, is greater global coverage and more cost-effective plans compared to some of the ones available from Microsoft. So it is an important thing to be aware of, that the technology can very much augment a Microsoft Teams deployments as well.
No, I agree. And I made a note whilst you were talking earlier on. You mentioned WhatsApp, and again, that's another big driver. People talk about WhatsApp, and we work with WhatsApp as well. So we've got an application as part of this called Same Room. So somebody's using various different applications. We talked about the different messaging tools that people will use, and one of the hardest jobs you as Britannic will have is trying to persuade people to move away from what they've already got. To say, well, the IT department, you need to stop using the Slack product, you need to use the 8x8. Well, it doesn't actually matter with us, because we can use 8x8 and they'll bring all of those different messaging applications into one room, same room as we call it. So they can continue to not operate siloed, but when a message goes out, it goes out from 8x8, but can be delivered into those different applications. So, again, I think we're very key about, let's not always fight against what's already there. Let's see how we can work with it, and those are two great examples of it, is how we work with different messaging applications, and certainly with the likes of MS Teams, because as you rightly say, Teams doesn't have contact center, so we lend contact center to it. So anyone starts talking about contact center, that's great fit for us. It's keep the user interface for Teams where you need it, and use 8x8 as the contact center, and the two talk to each other, and that's a key point for us.
Okay, and then we've got a question there about call quality. So, how do you measure and optimize the experience around call quality?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned our 240 sort of patents, and 60 plus of those are with our Chief Technology Officer, who's still with the business. And one of those is how we do the compression of the voice. So the bandwidth we use is a lot less than our key competitors in the marketplace. And we roughly operate at an operating level of 4.2, which to most people go, well, so what? ISDN, which most people would typically be using, is about 3.4, 3.6. So we'll guarantee call quality up to 3.8. If we drop below that, then we start paying out. That's part of the contract, to say, look, we guarantee it to that level. The 8x8 piece right at the beginning, that's the compression. So it's the compression that we use that gets the quality. But look, ultimately, it's public internet. I'm at home. If I've got really poor quality internet, then that's going to impact on the service that I get, as it will for anybody. That's the nature of working on public internet services.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's an interesting time when we start looking at integrating with other communication streams, other applications, CRM systems. It's kind of almost unified comms 2.0. It's not just about a software interface that sits on top of a communications platform. It's actually about bridging different technologies, different systems, different sources of data and applications together, and it's stretching the scope of unified communications. How what are the native integrations that 8x8 provide to customers?
Well, I struggle to go through all of them. We've got around about 30. So it's always dangerous to say out of the box, because everybody's idea of what out of the box means is slightly different. But key ones like Salesforce into Google are there straight away. So when we say out of the box, that means that we've already developed those. So there's near enough 30 key applications, CRMs. Recently, things like, let's say, Bullhorn, which people would be kind of quite familiar with. We've integrated to those. We've built that there. So we can work with pretty much anything. Mm-hmm. An open statement to make. But out of the box, there's 30 or so that we work with straight away. If it's not one of those, then we just need to write the integration for it. So yeah, the core ones like Sugar CRM, Microsoft Dynamics, and so on, they're already there.
And Salesforce and Zendesk,
yeah, they are all there. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Do we have any? If there's any more questions, please pop them in the chat, and happy to go through it. We're recording the session as well, so we can make that available after this. We can make slides available. If people want to carry on conversations and maybe look at a more bespoke session and demonstration and Q&A, let us know. We'll be happy to arrange it. So I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. If there's any more that come in, we'll take the questions. But if not, we've enjoyed hosting you. Hope you've benefited from the session. Hope you've seen some of the value in 8x8 and why Britannic have partnered with them to really help to support the move to public cloud, to simplify the delivery of this technology through a single platform, all-in application. And I think certainly when we start looking at the globalization of business and looking at how we simplify the scale and the extending of technology globally, there's some really exciting opportunities ahead. So Nick, really, very much thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for persevering with a live demo as well. That's
no problem. Yeah, we got there eventually.
We did. So I think that's it. I think we'll draw matters to a close. So thanks everyone for attending, and look forward to following conversations. So thanks very much.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Take care.